Hey YouTube, this is Gregory Nelson. Welcome to What Did I Just Watch? Episode 10. In this YouTube series, I introduce my favorite people to my favorite moments in professional wrestling. We cover moments that go to the absolute limit and discuss how they create drama, tell a story, and keep those viewers wanting more. Before we get into today's interview, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe, and if you really want to go the extra mile, you'll click that bell icon so you never miss an episode. My guest today, she's a power lifter, she's a musician, she's a teacher, and an all-around badass, my friend Kristen Dye. I met Kristen 2-ish years ago when our mutual friend Amelia was coming over to my house for wrestling, and Kristen just tagged along. I'm going to give Kristen 60 seconds to cut a little promo and tell you about herself. Kristen, the floor is yours.
Oh, hello, YouTube. My name is Kristen Dye, as Greg said. I have not a ton of experience with wrestling, but I'm really excited to be here. And I've spent the last 6 years getting into powerlifting and strongman. I primarily do strongman now because powerlifting is just so obsessive with numbers and stuff. I'd rather just like look at something and say, can I lift that weird object? I can? Cool. So that's why I like strongman a little bit more. And yeah, I'm a teacher these days. I teach band, and in the midst of a pandemic, it's been a fun year, but not really. And I'm excited to see what this whole thing is going to be about.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. Now, I mentioned that you've been over to my house a few times for wrestling. Now, if I may ask, what was your first exposure to professional wrestling? Maybe even going back to your childhood.
Oh, well, I remember growing up, a lot of friends in when I was in 6th grade used to wander the halls and go, "Do you smell what the Rock is cooking?" And I was like, that sentence doesn't make sense. Rocks don't cook. So I finally figured out who they were talking about. It's like, oh, it's a person. And I'm tickled about Dwayne's career. Like I absolutely love him now. But it was very tangential to my life for many years. And a friend of Amelia's showed me the documentary Wrestling Isn't Wrestling. Have you seen that?
I have not, but I'm going to put it on my list.
It's so great. It's I can't remember the guy's name, but it has like Macaulay Culkin is in it. Haley Joel Osment makes a little appearance. It's only 20 minutes long, but they go basically a deep dive into Triple H's background, and all of the wrestlers are played by female supermodels. It's so funny. It is hilarious. So good. Wrestling isn't. I think it's Wrestling Isn't Wrestling. I can find it. I'll send it to you. But it tickled me to such a degree that I was like, oh, I need to like get into wrestling. And I was like, okay, I get that it's like theatrical, and I get that it's it's a soap opera or whatever. But then I started watching it more after I started hanging out with you, and I was like, wow, this is super enjoyable. And I am a little like I'm engaged, and I'm invested into what is happening with these storylines. So I don't watch it as much as I wish I could, because the access is a little funky for me. I'm like, okay, if I can't just like turn something on and watch it, I'm not going to watch it. But I think it's a great art form. So yeah. And it's very welcoming too. I started watching Glow when it came out. I love Glow. It's a great
Glow was fantastic.
Such a great series. So yeah, I'm into it. I'm into it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for bringing that to the table.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So because Kristen's a power lifter, I immediately knew what wrestler I wanted to get into on this show today. Kristen and I will be talking about the career of the world's strongest man, Mark Henry. We'll be getting into 3 aspects that make Mark Henry so great: his strength, his comedic character work, and his dramatic character work. Now, I sent Kristen a handful of clips, and by handful, I mean 6. I sent Kristen 6 clips to watch as prep before we get into our main event match. Kristen, let's talk about Mark Henry's strength. Our first clip was provided by Juggernaut Training Systems on YouTube. Go check them out. I'm not big into weightlifting, but they seem like they know what they're talking about.
They do. I watch them anytime I don't know how to do a movement.
This 2-minute review reviews Mark Henry as a competitive powerlifter.
He's incredible. You see a lot of strong men in powerlifting. You see a lot of strong men in strongman, obviously. That's a dumb sentence. But he just rises above and beyond. So yeah, man, I would not want to get on the platform with him. Let's just put it that way. Or be in the same room as him. I'd feel crushed by his mere presence.
Now, Kristen, me and probably 90% of our viewers are wondering, what is the difference between strongman and powerlifting?
Sure, I can tell you that. So in powerlifting, you have 3 movements. You have the squat, you have the bench, and you have the deadlift, and that will be your basis for your training all the time. And your goal is to get, well, for most people, their goal is to get the highest possible weight on all of those lifts. I did a few competitions. I have my ridiculous trophies sitting right next to me in that realm, and it's a really good way to challenge yourself. So you have to figure out how to adjust your training so that you can get the higher numbers. In strongman, you're more focused on doing functional weightlifting, where you're trying to lift odd objects. Maybe you're trying to lift like a car. You might have to try to deadlift a car. You might try to have to overhead press an odd looking stone that might still have like moss on it and be kind of gross, or logs, or you overhead press different objects. You lift and carry different objects. So it's basically testing your body to its limits, and trying to see what the most ridiculous thing you can do is. So I just signed up for a competition where I get to pull a boat, and I'm so excited for that.
I'm excited for that.
It's not until October, so you'll have to wait to see the videos. But yeah, so it's really I thought it was a better way to kind of test myself and test my resolve. And,
of course.
Yeah, and he looks so cool pulling a boat. Who doesn't want to be friends with the boat pulling kid?
So it seems like this first clip I showed you is more powerlifting, and the second clip we get into is more strongman, because in this second clip, we see clips of Mark Henry lifting trucks. We hear stories about him bending rebar, stories about him bending quarters. I mean,
I lost my mind when during that story. It was like, oh my God, it's just, I was trying to tear a quarter, but I was only able to bend it. And I was like, what? Bending rebar is a common strongman event, but he does it as an autograph. He's just like, oh, you want my autograph? Boop, here you go. Mark Henry bent this piece of rebar. This is a glorious day.
This is going on my wall.
Yeah. Imagine the strength it takes to tear a quarter.
We also saw him roll a frying pan.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. That used to be his thing too, was just roll it up like a newspaper. Crazy. That's so crazy.
In our third clip, we'll be delving into Mark Henry's sexual chocolate character, a man who is always in pursuit of the ladies, but still a powerhouse in the ring. However, Mark Henry eventually decides to settle down. He has found love, and that love has been found with none other than Mae Young. We're going to take a quick second to show Kristen some of Mark Henry's comedy characters and see what she has to say. We'll be right back.
Hold up, it's right. What is this? Hold up.
Oh,
Cut the music.
really?
That's who Mae Young is.
Oh my God.
Mark Henry and Mae Young. Everybody in here is gonna join smooth. She can't dance. We have an announcement to make. What? Come on, man, tell him. You really want me to tell him? Yeah. I'm pregnant. What did she just say? Mae Young is
So ridiculous.
She said she was pregnant.
I I knew about sexual chocolate, but I didn't know about Mae Young, and that made my whole life. And I know what I want to do with the rest of my life in my geriatric years. I'm ready. That
You're gonna break into the wrestling business in your mid-70s.
I'm so ready. I really am. I think this is that will be my ultimate step in life.
When Mae Young first comes out, you couldn't believe the age that Mae Young was.
No. I
You,
was like, May is an older woman's name, but I was expecting someone a lot younger.
Mae Young and Mark Henry come out and announce that Mae Young is pregnant, and you absolutely lost it. Not just from that, but from the reactions of everybody in the ring that just look absolutely disgusted from what they just heard.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And it just tracks with what my face would have looked like what my face looked like at that time, honestly.
It's a very genuine reaction from
Yes.
all parties involved.
Yeah.
And the second clip we watched was the birth of Mark Henry and Mae Young's child. They're wheeling her out back. It seems from the way this clip is cut that they keep cutting back to this in between segments of the show, which makes it so much better.
Yeah, they're like, oh, let's see how Mae Young is doing.
Yeah. But you see Mae Young in labor. She's asking for a cigar. You have Gerald Briscoe throwing up, and this EMT has no clue what he is dealing with. And
no, and Mark Henry's just standing in the back going, I can't wait to meet my kid with my beautiful baby with Mae Young. It was great. And I wasn't expecting it to be a hand.
Find me someone who was expecting it to be a hand.
No, I don't think I can find anybody. It's all out. I gotta hand it to her. She did a great job. She gave birth to that hand, and she not only did she take it in stride, she acted the shit out of it, and I am so proud of her. It was just so, or what, I don't even want to say Orwellian. It was like something out of a sci-fi novel. I was like, what?
Now, I have a very interesting postscript about that story to share with you.
Okay.
On a later anniversary episode of Monday Night Raw, you see a rare appearance from a man in a hand costume saying, I am Mae Young's son, all grown up.
Oh, I was hoping that would happen. Oh my God, that's great.
To see that come into play 15, 20 years after it happened,
yes,
absolutely floored me as a fan.
Incredible. Was it an interracial hand, or was it a white hand?
It was a white hand, like the white hand we saw emerge from
Mark Henry's son.
So is Mark Henry actually the real father? That's a great question to get into.
I'm curious because I am the product of an interracial marriage, and I've got a little bit of melanin in my skin, and I'm curious why that hand is white.
Oh my gosh, I never expected it to go this far. Let's move on. Okay. Clip 5 is my favorite Mark Henry moment, and it's his retirement speech. He's in the ring with John Cena and going off about what a great, lengthy, awesome career he's had, only to turn around and deliver a world's strongest slam right to John Cena. And the crowd goes insane. You don't see this coming.
No. Oh my God. So I've seen this clip before, and this is what makes Mark Henry one of my favorite wrestlers, just because the way he delivers the line, like, what did you think? It was like, you think it was going to be that easy? I was like, oh.
I got a lot more left in the tank.
Yes, it's so good. And like him saying that to John Cena is just like the ultimate like middle finger to that man. And he, my boyfriend used the phrase, he looked like he made John Cena look like a rag doll. Just slammed him on the floor. John Cena looked like he had the wind knocked out of him. It was totally unexpected. It was great. It was so good. And he sets it up so nicely with the tears and like turning away. and he looks kind of old with his like receding hairline, and you're like, oh man, this man's had an incredible career. And then he just beats the crap out of John Cena. Great.
Now, an interesting story about that. Mark Henry was offered a role playing Hamlet off Broadway after a director saw that performance. I don't know if it followed through. I looked into it and couldn't find anything, but I know he was offered a role playing Hamlet after that
That's
performance.
amazing. I would see that Hamlet in a second.
Me too. I would have driven from Boston to New York to go see that.
Oh yeah, I would have given here, take my dollars. Take them all.
Seriously, you don't see enough professional wrestlers doing live theater, and I think that's something that needs to change.
You should. I mean, this is what they're doing.
They're storytellers.
Yeah, it is, and it's completely theatrical. It requires a knowledge of stage fighting and moving about the ring and but also keeping your persona up the whole time in front of these like HD cameras.
Well, interestingly enough, Shakespeare's As You Like It has a wrestling match in the play.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Moving on, we're going to get into our 6th clip that I showed Kristen, and it's Mark Henry defeating Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship. I actually almost showed you this match as our main event because it's such a great back and forth, but I found one more clip that really fits the theme of this show. So real quick, this full match has a great back and forth. The finish is great. Orton goes for an RKO, and Mark Henry just says no, just throwing him halfway across the ring. Orton gets up and turns around right into the world's strongest slam, and the shock factor and appreciation from the crowd is so heartwarming, except for like one bitch of a Karen in the crowd that is just like this.
Yeah. I thought that was Randy Orton's I thought she was related to Randy Orton or something like that. I was like, oh, is that his wife or something?
Oh, she was going in rooting for Randy Orton, completely unaware of what Mark Henry has accomplished, and just has a look like this on her face.
Yeah, like get that crap right under your nose. Like Randy Orton doesn't even come close. Oh my God. I loved the move, like the move that he opened with, like turning him into a bow with the steel beam on the edge. I was like, that must have taken a lot of very careful practice. Just pulling him by the neck and the feet, just like, oh, that you have to have that beautiful flexibility to do that without breaking your back. But
it says a lot about Randy Orton too, as a backstage character who wants to make the show work, because he put over Mark Henry in this match. So Randy Orton is someone who really appreciates and understands Mark Henry's career enough to let him pin him for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, it was you could tell he was like really respecting him and respecting his abilities. Yeah. It was very cool.
Kristen, all of this being said, are you ready to get into our main event?
I sure am, Greg.
Awesome. Kristen and I will be watching the World Heavyweight Championship match between Mark Henry and the Big Show from Vengeance 2011. If you want the full experience, go watch this match right now. If we're friends in real life, hit me up. I'll let you borrow my WWE Network info, and you won't be left out. We'll be back in a bit to see what Kristen has to say. And we are back. Kristen, what are your opening thoughts on what I decided to show you today?
Oh my God, that was glorious. Beautiful meeting of the heavyweight champions. It was just like two massive, fleshy, fat dudes just going at it. It was glorious. I loved it.
Oh man, this match is such a spectacle. And this match gets like left out of, a real classic wrestling match, library.
Why is that?
I think it's because this spot at the end of the match We'll get into it later, but this spot at the end of the match has actually been done before.
Oh.
But I feel like this one was definitely more effective.
Yeah, it was not expected at all. I didn't know it was going to happen.
No.
I was totally surprised.
So we'll definitely get there, but let's start with the play-by-play breakdown of this match. We see the entrances. We see Big Show. He comes out. He's amped. He's high-fiving the crowd. He's ready to win the championship. We see Mark Henry come out, and the first glimpse you get of him is this shot of him from behind, really proving how massive this dude is.
Yeah, and I wonder why they didn't do that for Big Show, because they, like we were talking during the match, that Big Show is tall and Mark Henry is wide. So they showed his width from those, you know, the light dimming behind him, like you can't even see past his shoulders.
The bell rings, and both men immediately lock up. Big Show gets some slight advantage in the beginning, knocking Mark Henry out of the ring, but Big Show has no problem bringing him right back in with a hip toss, a headbutt, and then following up with a huge super kick.
I was impressed. I didn't know a man that weighs 441 pounds can move like that, like a I don't know, like a gazelle. I do think it's like his height has a huge advantage in this match. And the fact that he can throw his weight around pretty well, but I was not expecting that at all.
So this super kick, it knocks Mark Henry back outside the ring, and Henry, playing the role of the heel, tells the timekeeper to give him his belt so he can leave. And as he attempts to leave, Big Show cuts him off, throwing him back in the ring. But at this point, Henry takes advantage of having the high ground and starts wailing on Big Show when Big Show gets back into the ring. And with incredible ease, Mark Henry just picks up Big Show and delivers this huge scoop slam.
That was amazing. I didn't think he was capable. You see it happen in wrestling all the time, but then I remembered that guy weighs almost 500 pounds, and he just easily overhead presses him and just slams him to the ground. It's like he's some kind of giant log or something.
We actually see in the classic WrestleMania 3 match between Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan scoop slams Andre, but it takes him a few times to really get that momentum to get him over and slammed into the mat.
And I mean, there's not much you can do to make your body weigh less to like get that, make it easier for the other person, because you're dead weight, right? Like, geez, it's amazing.
With Big Show on the ground, Henry continues to work the legs, which is super smart, especially against an opponent like Big Show. You gotta take down the legs if you want the big tree to fall down.
Yeah.
Next, we see Big Show trying to one-up Mark Henry, going for a scoop slam of his own, but he doesn't get the momentum he needs, and Henry falls flat on top of him.
That was an embarrassing moment for him. I loved it. It's kind of nice to see, because he kind of puts Mark Henry in his place for the first couple of minutes, and you're like, oh, what's going to happen here? And Mark just smushes him with all of his weight.
In the next big moment of this match, which I know you loved, we see Mark Henry and Big Show find their way to their feet, and their eyes are just locked on each other in a complete stare down. And then both men sprint towards each other, knocking the other person down with a double clothesline. I
love that move. It's probably my favorite wrestling move, because it's just it shows it's like a game of chicken that has that's how chicken's supposed to end, with everybody on the ground dying.
This double clothesline spot too with the smaller guys is just as effective, especially when the match is just at such a high caliber.
Yeah, I mean, you got both men parallel to the ground, and then it's great. It's perfect.
So as the referee begins to count both men out, they find their way to their knees and begin laying punches on each other. Big Show gains the momentum and hits Henry with clotheslines and body tackles, and then we get to see Big Show hit a gigantic scoop slam of his own.
Yeah, as I was like hoping for Henry to win at this point, I was like, oh man, we're getting taken down.
I think it was at the point of this match where you were actually like, I don't know who I want to win.
I was like, everybody's working so hard.
So after this combination of moves from the Big Show, he begins to stalk Mark Henry, calling for a choke slam, and he hits it. He hits it big. Big Show goes for the cover. The referee counts 1, 2, and Mark Henry kicks out.
Yeah, it seems like the next few minutes is just both men trying to subdue the other, and they keep ending with it. Who's going to kick out? Is it going to kick out? Is this going to be the last one? Yeah.
There's nothing really more that gets me going in wrestling when wrestlers kick out of each other's finishers back and forth. It is awesome.
Yeah, and you grow to expect it, but you're not sure who's gonna get it.
Next, Big Show is winding up for a KO punch. Mark Henry counters, hitting Big Show with the world's strongest slam. Henry goes for the cover. The referee counts 1, 2, and Big Show kicks out.
Oh, it's like shifting it's a power struggle. It's like a power shift every single time. Like who's got the upper hand? You never know. And in this match, I really have no idea. It's like yeah.
And as both men kick out of each other's finishers, you really start to see that new level of drama and desperation in the match.
Yeah, I completely agree. I never know what they're starting to, you can see it in their eyes. Like Big Show starts crying at this point. I think it's around this point that he starts crying, and
yeah,
Mark Henry there's just sweat rolling down their bodies, and you can tell that they just want to end it. They just want to end it.
Just want it to be over at this point. I don't care if I win anymore.
Yeah, finish it.
And in these moments of desperation, Mark Henry climbs to the top rope, and Big Show stops him, delivering a huge chokeslam off the top rope.
I thought this was going to be it.
Big Show goes for the cover. The referee counts 1, 2, and Mark Henry kicks out again. So now we see Big Show in that moment of desperation where, not really learning his lesson after what Mark Henry just went through, he now climbs up to the top rope. And Kristen, we're going to take a quick second to break away and show our crowd your actual reactions from our watch along. So we'll be right back.
It's very genuine. It's very focused on the technique. I like it.
This could be.
Yep, careful. Yeah. Oh, shit!
So, Kristen, explain to our viewers at home what just happened.
So I can't use the technical terms because I just don't even know, but Big Show climbs up to the top rope on the outside. You can see him trying to get his balance, and he goes over. Mark flips him, and as soon as he lands, the whole ring just crumbles like a piece of old cornbread. It just completely falls apart. And both men just lay paralyzed on the ground, and they flop down like just as the ring falls apart. It's so good. I couldn't believe it. I've never seen that happen before. And I think before this, I was remarking that I was like, this is interesting that I haven't seen props in this one. Like they didn't use the stairs, no chairs, no tables from underneath. You're like, there's no need for props. And I get it now. This is like some really pure wrestling. I loved it.
Yeah. They do a great job of telling a story without needing those extra elements.
Yeah.
Just two big dudes beating the crap out of each other.
Exactly.
So after Mark Henry hits this suplex, the crowd is going insane. The ring is collapsed. The referee's on the ground too. EMTs start coming out, and they bring a normal size stretcher, which you disagreed with because neither of these guys are going to fit on this stretcher.
No, not even Mark Henry's leg would fit on that stretcher. Big Show's like maybe one of his arms would fit on that stretcher.
Eventually, we see a full-length golf cart come out to the ring. Big Show is loaded onto it. He's carted out of the arena. But what's really great about this post-match, on top of all of the replays, on top of the EMTs, we get this great moment of Mark Henry struggling to his feet. So insistent on walking out of the arena after what just happened. And it adds such a nice touch of storytelling to all this.
And I would argue that means that he won the match because Big Show got carted out, but Mark Henry ended up leaving of his own accord. I don't know, did the title go with him, or did it, because I saw one of the EMTs had it, or one of the referees had it?
Normally, when a match is thrown out and considered a no contest, the champion will retain their championship.
Okay, that's what I figured. So maybe wouldn't win it, but I would say, he had he fared better at the end.
Now, I mentioned earlier that this moment didn't really stick with most fans because this isn't the first time we've seen this spot. Back in 2003, Brock Lesnar on an episode of SmackDown superplexed Big Show off the top rope and broke the ring in a very similar fashion.
Oh.
That moment is fantastic, but I feel like this one stuck a little more because I was more involved in the story.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of these two titans coming to just meet head to head, and you're not sure what's going to happen. Like, of course, the ring's not going to stay together. They're massive. They're huge dudes. There's like 700 pounds of meat on that thing.
And sadly, I only have one more real downfall from this match, and it's that it wasn't the main event. The show kept going after this. John Cena and Alberto Del Rio somehow managed to put on a last man standing match after this. Most of the match took place on the outside of the ring and the backstage area, but it just didn't feel right. I feel like with the ring breaking and the crowd going crazy, that's the way to end your pay-per-view.
I agree. Cut it there.
Yeah.
It's not a wrestling match unless you're in the ring too. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah. And honestly, you have my network info. If you go watch that match that happens after, you'll be very confused.
Were fans more into the John Cena match than the Alberto Del Rio match than the Mark Henry and Big Show match?
I think management was more interested in the John Cena Alberto Del Rio match than the Mark Henry Big Show match.
That's a darn shame. That's a real darn shame. I thought it was great.
So, do you have any final thoughts or comments or questions you want to share before we sign off today?
Only that I really enjoy seeing some massive dudes throw their weight around, and I didn't realize how much I was going to enjoy it. Sometimes when you think of wrestling, you think of these svelte guys that are really cut, and a couple of bigger dudes, but watching Mark Henry be almost belittled by Big Show was something I was not expecting. It was great.
Well, Kristen, you're already giving me ideas of what to show you on the next episode I have you on.
Sweet.
Big dudes yeeting each other around the ring is definitely going to be what I show Kristen on future episodes. That being said, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe. Thanks again to Kristen for being on the show. This was an awesome catch up, and I can't wait to hang out with you in real life once all of this is over.
One day again, we can watch wrestling in your living room.
Hell yeah. Finally, I don't want to be doing this forever. As much as I love it, I want to get back to work. So stay safe, stay home. If you go out, wear a mask. Believe in science. They know what they're talking about. Be kind and just support each other. Thanks again for watching. Take care.